and welcome to WebCertain TV. Today we have got a panel of WebCertain experts and discussing a topic of Pinterest. So WebCertain experts, who are they, is Felipe and Diana working for social media department, and Jens, all things linguistic. So Pinterest, is it a social media platform or is a search engine?
It's both. It's a social media platform where you can do search for images, and it's a search engine with social media elements. It has a little bit of both. It depends on how you see it. From the way that I see it, Pinterest, they have gone through this identity crisis in the last couple of years. They have implemented elements from these both types of platforms, and now they're trying to figure out what works. I think that they managed to see that what really makes them stand out in the social media landscape is the search for images and how accurate their search for images actually is. And now they're trying to focus on that by saying they're a search engine.
So can they overdo Google in this?
No, hang on. We need to be controversial.
Sorry,
because
yes.
I want to contradict that. Obviously.
Right, okay,
Do you
sorry.
want to contradict it too? You can start.
Oh, no. That being said, the thing that makes Pinterest maybe not a search engine as such is the fact that the content of it is still created by its users. So it still mainly uses, individuals who are going out there and adding images to their board. They're still sort of sharing between themselves all these images. So it cannot really be called a search engine in the same context as Google or Yandex or other search engines, I think.
That was exactly what I wanted to say as well. I think in order to be a search engine, you need to have the capability to search the web. Like if I can search all pictures on the web, then I'm a search engine. If I can only search within my own database, which is user generated in this case, I can't really call myself a search engine. What I would say Pinterest probably is almost like a social bookmarking tool, but for pictures. Social bookmarking tools has been popular for a while. They're sort of a bit less in the focus now, but it's sort of where people go and share websites they like or links they like and stuff, like a private web directory, but user generated. Pinterest sort of is that for images. I look at images, I like certain images, and I pin them, and then I make them available to basically anyone who either searches for them and that element comes back in, or someone who follows my board particularly and just looks at everything I look for.
I personally recognize that whenever I search for images, there's loads of results coming from the Pinterest. So do you think there is a possibility that Pinterest will take over Google in regards to the image search?
I can say one thing. Searching for images on Pinterest is a lot more specific, and it can be a lot more useful for finding a particular image, because you have all these additional tags that you can add to your searches. Now, of course, that's something that Google has recently introduced, perhaps in an attempt to mimic what Pinterest is doing. But still, if you're looking for, brown leather shoes you can wear at a wedding in spring, if you search that whole sentence on Google, it's not going to give you relevant results. If you do it on Pinterest, the game changes.
I don't think Pinterest is even trying to compete with Google when it comes to image search, because the technology is completely different. I think what Pinterest is doing quite successfully, though, is marketing themselves towards people who are using Google image search by letting Google index the Pinterest picture. So that when you say, if you look in Google Images for something, you get Pinterest results, but that's not you using Pinterest. That's just Google finding images on Pinterest because Pinterest allows them to, because it allows them to index everything. But the basic idea behind Google Images is again, as a search engine, to find images based on your search keywords everywhere where Google has access to. While Pinterest, if you search within Pinterest, you are staying within the Pinterest database. So it's not really comparable as such.
Yeah, no, just edging up to what Diana said as well, is that the way that Pinterest searches for images is a lot smarter as well, because as you said, if you're using a specific keyword on Google Images search, that's all the system is going to give you. That's all the platform is going to give you. If you're searching for dogs, they are going to give you dogs. but Pinterest can actually identify that dogs are showing in a specific picture, even if you don't have any keywords in that pin, even if you don't have any tags on that pin, the system will identify that there's a dog on that image, and that might be interesting for you.
I'm not so sure that, I know they're trying to do that. I'm not sure that's the main thing they're relying on though, but obviously now we're guessing because we don't know how well that technology actually works. I think an important factor that Pinterest is better showing relevant results is that all Pinterest images are on boards, and the boards are themed. So Pinterest would not choose any picture when someone searches for dogs which is on a theme which hasn't dogs in them. But yeah, Pinterest has this function. You can hover over a certain image and it will show you images that contain the same sort of graphical theme in a way. So they do that. Google Images has that as well, though, as far as I remember, even though it might not work as
It doesn't work
as
that
brilliantly.
well.
So what people are searching for then in Pinterest? Do you have any ideas?
Well, Pinterest has recently become the best online source for recipes. There are billions of recipes on Pinterest nowadays. I think they've reached a record number. So one thing is for sure, people are looking for cooking tips and recipes on Pinterest. That's, I think, their number one content, I would say.
Tattoos are quite big.
All right.
People looking
Tattoos,
for all sorts of inspiration where they was looking for. I mean, it could. I know that tattoos is quite because my wife's looking for them there. But you could have like other types of ideas when you are looking for a certain image or certain graphic theme. I would say that's it basically. You recipes. I wasn't aware actually. I'm not so looking for recipes myself. on Pinterest.
There's another use that's very interesting is that a lot of people use Pinterest for collecting things that they can't buy or things that they want to buy but they can't buy just yet. So we're talking about fashion, we're talking about cars and houses. So they use it for inspiration or for collecting things that they're willing to buy in the future. So this is really useful for companies because although these users might not have the budget for buying that piece of clothing now, but they are willing to buy this maybe in the future and they will get back to their boards and go back to their connection.
Yeah. So even though mainly it's the pictures are of physical goods, so something you can touch, something you can buy, we see now a growth in also ideas being shared on Pinterest. Digital marketing is actually becoming quite pinnable because a lot of digital marketers share infographics and they share, tips and very visually appealing images that other professionals can pin to their boards. So we're seeing a move from just a platform focusing on physical things you can buy to ideas as well, which is a great step forward for businesses, who are not just selling things using Pinterest.
I mean, you've got travel destinations. There's lots of people putting pictures from places they would want to go to, as opposed to places they've been to. That is probably the big difference between Pinterest and something like Instagram, where you put pictures of things which you either have or which you have actually places you have been to or things you have physically been close to and seen and taking pictures of. While on Pinterest is more like a wish list of things you would like to have or see. That is probably this. There is a lot of history on it as well, though. Pinterest is really big for historic photography, finding pictures of old houses, old ships, even paintings. I mean, people looking for a certain painting, but obviously not able to physically go to that gallery. So you will find that there. There's a lot of art on Pinterest.
Is there any more tips or advices in regards how to drive more business from Pinterest?
I think that when companies are using Facebook and they're using LinkedIn and Twitter as well, they are very much concerned about brand awareness and thought leadership. They want to present themselves as leaders in a particular topic, offer people content that they can discuss and show that they know what they're talking about. But in Pinterest, I think that it's a different aspect. They get the opportunity to inspire people and show what their brand stands for. So show how they get inspired by the social media landscape, how they get inspired by the industry, and what really triggers the innovations that are coming from these brands. So for example, if you have a fashion company, you don't necessarily need to only pin your dresses, your skirts, and your trousers. You can actually show the process behind it. You can show how you decide on the colors, how you decide on how the next line is going to be about, because people are interested in the background as well, in the backstage. So you can actually inspire other people and show them what inspires you. So you can establish that connection between the brand and the person buying the product.
I would like to go back a step to something which we haven't talked about yet, which I find quite interesting to discuss, even if it might not be, or it might be interesting even in the advertising part of it. But the social interaction within Pinterest, whether that happens or not, because obviously it's a very image focused app, which means, or page, which means that people are looking for image content in the first place. And while there is a function so you can comment and interact with people who have pinned stuff, I hardly ever see that happen. I don't know whether that's different for the recipe people, because I suppose they need to post the actual recipe or not just a picture of the food. But that's something that I think there is a development missing here still, because the step from pinning these images to actually have people talk about them, I cannot see that at the minute.
It does seem that Pinterest somehow recognized this gap in their interactions, because they've added the tried it button, which basically there's a button that shows people how many users have tried this recipe or have tried buying this dress. And then you've got an option of saying you liked it, you didn't like it, and then leave a comment. So tips, advice for the next people wanting to cook this. But it is true that in the sense of comments, there aren't many.
Because I've tried that. I've sometimes, just for the spite of it, actually commented on someone's pin, and there's never ever any thread developing.
Yeah.
No one even says, "Oh, thanks for the comment." Nothing ever happens. It's like commenting into the void.
Yeah, but we have to say that the notifications on Pinterest, they are not great either. So you get
True.
all the notifications on the same place. It's really hard for you to see where your comments are coming from, the new followers that you're getting, and everything is a bit confusing. They tend to group all these notifications on the right side of the screen. So it's a bit confusing as well. So even if someone is making a comment in your own board, it's hard for you to reply to that person. It really looks like they're not focusing on the social aspect of the platform. They're really leaving this on a second, leaving this to the side and focusing really on the search.
They've also recently got rid of the like button, which is a sign that they're really perhaps moving towards leaving the social aspect of it behind.
So what about in regards to SEO aspects? Can we somehow optimize our Pinterest content?
Yeah, well, you always need to be mindful of the keywords that you're using when you're describing the image, the tags that you're using as well, and try to be as descriptive as you can when you are sharing something on Pinterest. When it comes to your profile, it's the same thing that goes for any other social media profile, using nice images, nice descriptions, being short, straight to the point as well. It really looks like the point of Pinterest is not really written content, it's not really text, it's images. But however, you need to make sure that you are covering your back and you have the right descriptions.
I would focus a lot on the boards as well, because obviously pictures are sort of sorted in galleries, you could call them, which they call boards. And normally these boards have a theme. And the closer you stick to the actual theme and the more you narrowed down the theme is, the better I think you will succeed in getting your picture shown for someone who's looking for specifically that. So instead of just putting motorcycles, you can put vintage mopeds, and then you actually only put Vespas there. So you can have more smaller boards rather than a board which you call all pins I like.
Absolutely. You mentioned descriptions. I used to be a big fan of descriptions on Pinterest. I would always say, make your descriptions very interesting, make them add something to the picture. But then I noticed when I pin things, I just delete the description, especially if it's something coming from a brand and it says something like buy this for, 50% off. I always delete the description. So although, yes, it's important to have a description rather than leave it blank, they're not as important as the images themselves, because honestly, most people will just get rid of the description when they pin the images on their own boards.
Unless they're very fancy, the descriptions. What about, you're talking about the descriptions and tags and everything. What about the language? What about if we want to go international? So how we do that? And on top of that, the question is Pinterest any popular in specific regions of the planet?
Sorry, you go.
It's growing a lot. It's grown incredibly in the past couple of years, and it does have international features. It has things like you can basically search in any language, and it will still give you relevant results, even if, so for example, if I'm in the United Kingdom, what I recently done for a blog post I've written, was I looked for keywords in Korean, but even though I was in the United Kingdom, it still gave me English results for the keywords I was looking for. So it's got this very useful approach to different languages. It recognizes and translates keywords even if you don't use that language. Also, if you're in a certain location and you look for, if you're in Spain and you're looking for, I don't know, umbrellas to buy, it will give you results from Spain because it recognizes you're there, and probably you're going to be looking for local retailers. So that's an amazing aspect for any international brands.
So totally unscientifically, not having access to any statistics or anything, I do think that when I'm actually using Pinterest, I do quite often get pins which have been pinned from people from different parts of the world. So there is a lot of people from Italy, weirdly enough, but it partly might depend on what kind of stuff you search for as well. But Italy, Russia, a lot of stuff from Asia. The problem you've got with these, in my opinion, with Pinterest and the global use is that if you want to get a social conversation going, you don't even know what language you're supposed to reply. It's it's not very clear to know where the person who's pinned it actually lives. Okay, you might go to the profile and you might be able to see, but who does that though? And that's stalking. So you're not actually, who is this? But yeah, I think there is still a lot of, but then again, it's a very image heavy idea, the whole concept, and sort of you probably can argue that an image is worth more than 1,000 words, and we don't have to talk on Pinterest. No, we just share our pictures and we love each other anyway.
I wonder if the companies operating globally, they should have like a different images for the different regions. You know, they build the profile out of the different images.
They do. Most of the big brands, they do that. IKEA is a really good example because they have, obviously, they sell furniture, so that's a very pinnable product, and they have accounts for different countries. Lidl does the same, and they have different recipes for Greece compared to the UK, and so on and so forth. So they do that, but obviously you have to have different images, and you have to have a proper social team behind it to have the time to actually pay attention to different Pinterest accounts.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's more than just translating the description or translating the tags. It's actually respecting the local interests as well. People might be interested in different colors, in different recipes, they have different tastes. So if you have a global campaign, you might want to have local profiles with different local interests as well. So you can really target what people are searching for.
That's a typical digital marketing problem anyway. There is in a lot of campaigns and all sorts of platforms are being conducted with stock images from the US targeting Korea. And it's on an image intensive platform like Pinterest, this becomes even more prominent than if you're just having a PPC landing page where someone perhaps thinks that the people should look a little bit more like the ones you have around you.
Yeah.
Instead of just some stock image.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, thank you very much for your input then today, and it was really nice to talk to you, and I hope our users also find this content useful for them. Thank you and goodbye.